Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope y'all are doing good. There's a couple topics that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I'm looking what's going on in this country right now. It's like you think of the Civil War back in the mid 1800s. And now that we look back with hindsight being 2020, you think about it and we're like, well, yeah, the Civil War probably actually started on this certain date, or at least around a certain time. We can look at the first battle at Bull Run. We can look at Harper's Ferry, all of these things. But if you actually look back and study the history as it was written then in the present tense, in other words, what was going on in that exact time, most people actually didn't know it at all. In fact, the first battle of Bull Run, there were people that were camping and sitting there picnicking on a hillside, just hanging out with their families, eating lunch, sitting around, until they started to hear the gunshots going off. And then they realized, whoa, maybe civil war has occurred. And then you look at the United States right now, where you've got these areas in our country, supposedly our country, because as I've asked so many times lately, where are we right now? Is this still the United States of America? Is it almost gone? Is it partially gone? Or has it been long gone? I don't know. And it's hard for me to really reconcile what country I truly live in, being a 100% staunch, single issue, Second Amendment supporter. Because in the United States, we have a constitution, and it says in and of itself that it is the supreme law of the land. Now, just a couple years after it was written, it was amended 10 times, becoming part of the Constitution therein, meaning the Second Amendment is the supreme law of the land. And it simply says a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And the Second Amendment is so succinct and it's so beautifully written because this is a pre-existing right, not granted by government, but it says, don't tread on me, shall not be infringed, because our rights are given to us by God. That's literally what the founding fathers said when they declared independence, July 4th, 1776, in writing. And it doesn't just tell you the what, though, shall not be infringed, which means in a country called the United States of America, with a constitution, if we had even one gun control law, it wouldn't be allowed. But yet here we are. But it says the why, not just the what, but the why. And that's the part we need to focus on right now, being necessary to the security of a free state. And since it has been infringed, these necessities have not been followed. And when necessities are not followed, you end up with something that's antithetical to the core fundamentals and to the founding. And not only do we not live in a country right now that's actually the United States of America, we live in a land that's antithetical to the United States of America. We live in a self-deprecating, self-hating country. And there's so many people out there that are taught, and they're falling into this trap that you're supposed to hate yourself if you're an American. And that you're supposed to feel bad about it. And that you're supposed to give certain people reparations. And that at all costs, you're supposed to worry about the rest of the world before you worry about yourself. I think that's wrong. I think that's very harming to people's self-confidence. And I think when you don't have a self-confident people, when you don't have people that can all gather together and live together under a certain moral compass, I think you see what's happening right now. And whereas we've had a so-called civil war in this country before, what do we have now? Where we literally have cities like Portland, Oregon, where we have ICE agents that are following the law of the land. Just remember this. It's a crime to enter this country illegally. They don't have to commit another crime to be here. They're already criminals, just the fact that they're illegally here to begin with. When you're a border jumper, a river swimmer, or whatever, whether the Catholic NGOs are flying you in on luxury jumbo jets, it doesn't matter how. The law of the land in this country says if you're here illegally, you're a criminal and you need to get out. And whereas I've disagreed with President Trump on many things, and we can get into that later, and Lord only knows we have on this channel. And I've taken a lot of flack for that, but I've always been honest with you about my opinions, and I always shoot it to you straight on here. Trump is finally stepping up to the plate, doing what he was elected to do, insofar as with the popular vote, the Electoral College won by wide margins. He's actually doing what he was elected to do as the chief executive, and he's executing the law of the land, and he's simply saying, look, if you're not here the right way, you need to get out. And ICE is going out, rounding these people up, treating them with lots of respect. In my opinion, a lot more respect than a lot of them even deserve, because in many cases, they're not sending their best. And we all know that. It's very evident. Many, many Americans have lost their lives due to these people, due to all of this. And they're trying to get them out. But then we have areas of this country that are fighting against the country from within. And you know, a lot of ways it's easier to face a foreign enemy because it becomes a lot more simple than like, this is that bad guy over there and we're the good guys over here and it's us versus them. But here's the problem. This country's become so bifurcated. These communists, these socialists, which is all word games and it's all the same thing at the end of the day. These people have infiltrated so far within. And I'm just going to say this. This might be controversial to say, but bring McCarthyism back. The great Senator McCarthy from the state of Kansas, bring it back tenfold at this point. Don't forget, in the Civil Rights Act, communists have no civil rights. Now, you might not have learned that if you went to public schools. You probably especially didn't learn that if you went to a private school either. But go fact check me. Look it up. Communists have no civil rights, actually. Think about that. That's actually the law. I know some of you are like, yeah, right, dude. No, like, actually, for real. And they're attacking these ICE agents violently. There's literally wars in our streets all over this country right now. We have governors kicking out National Guard that's coming in there trying to quell these insurrections. These literally like skirmishes and battles that I hope this isn't true, but maybe later on in the history books, this country even survives long enough to have accurate history books at all. I don't even know if we've ever had accurate history books in our lifetime, but you know what I mean. Because look, it's like Norm Macdonald said, and I'm paraphrasing, but isn't it kind of funny that the good guys always win the wars? Well, yeah, because the winners get to write the history books where they're always the good guys. You guys realize that we have history going on right now, don't you? Antifa and all of these terrorists, maybe the ones writing the history book, where the right Christian or Christian ethos, heritage American ends up being written as the bad guys. That's happening right now in front of all of us, actually. Now, I think a lot of you do know and a lot of you do care, and I hope this topics of this stream tonight is germane, and maybe some of you will get mad at me, and I don't want to take it personal. We can still be friends for some of the stuff I'm going to want to talk about. But maybe, just maybe, there's a few people that some of these topics are going to connect with, actually. Because these are core fundamental things right now, and this country's not okay. It's not okay at all. And there's a lot of really, really good people that live in this country that have busted their butts, busted their backs, both domestically, people who served our country in foreign wars. You know, we've been able to run communism out of all of these other countries in the world. A lot of brave people did that, and I'm very grateful they did. Very appreciative. And we do need to be appreciative and grateful. But at the same time, we've never been able to get it out of our own darn country. Think about that for a minute. All of the bloodshed, all of the brave heroes that have gone off and fought to fight the Reds. What do we do at the end of World War II? We ally with the communists. Just think about this for a second. Communism's bad. We have to get the Reds. We have to get the Reds. Then all of a sudden we have to get the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And then what? Then what? Germans are still ashamed of themselves, hanging their heads low, self-deprecating. Not all of them, but that's how they've been taught. They've been taught to hate themselves the last 80 years. And what happened? We joined up with the Reds. We joined up with Stalin and the communist Russians. Like you don't even have to put your tinfoil hat on and look into conspiracy theories. I'm not even a conspiracy theorist at all. However, it's been blatantly obvious This country's been rushing towards communism, allying with communism at all costs, while fighting it everywhere. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall so they can all come over here and infiltrate our country through Hollywood, through the schools, the educational industrial complex. Literally wiping out whole countries and just genocides of so many people over the years. In the name of what? Well, guess what? It's on our soil. It's here. It's well cemented in. It's been here for over 100 years. You know, in the 60s, Nikita Khrushchev told the United States, this was Khrushchev of Russia during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Look into that if you want a whole basket of worms to dig into. Trust me, there's a lot to that too. Bay of Pigs invasion. I know some of you know what I'm talking about. If not, I'm giving you little homework assignments to look into. That's why this is a 2A EDU channel. And he said, you know what? We're going to take over the United States without ever even firing a shot. Now we see violent mobs, roving gangs, groups of domestic terrorists, soon to be labeled international terrorists from what Trump says, taking over cities. Police on stand-down orders. Out of the corner, pin, shoot, maim, beat up, brutalize. People that are trying to execute the laws of this country and get these illegals out. We've had open borders for the previous 4 years. During Obama, we had it for 8 years. We had it during Bush. Look at the whole Bush H-1Bs and all these different versions of visas. Look, this crosses both sides of the political aisle. That's why I'm not a partisan man. But we're sitting here right now. And all I want is my damn country back. I just want to be left alone. And I want my guns, my liberties, and my freedom, and a few people to love. Have a close walking relationship with Jesus. I'm good. You know? I think some of you do know what I'm talking about. But our cities and many parts of our country are literally overtaken right now as we speak with violent thugs. And we have lower federal district court judges putting injunctions in. Think about that. Our Constitution, that's supposed to be the supreme law of the land, says the president is the chief executive. He is to execute. He's supposed to be faithful in his execution. He's supposed to honor his oath to the Constitution. He's supposed to faithfully, diligently, and with a good moral compass be sure the laws are being followed. You know what's interesting? As you go back to the 1860s, you go back a little bit before that, there was a civil war, talks of one ginning up as early as the 1820s. Things kept culminating, and they had a law that was the law of the land and the country. It's called the Fugitive Slave Act. If a slave were to flee and become a fugitive slave who was owned lawfully by the laws of the land at that time, by their master, that if the slave ran to a non-slave state, that they had to faithfully help return the slave back to their owner. A lot of states weren't following that. They were going by their own set of rules. This is one of the major things that actually helped kick off the Civil War. Well, look what we have now in this country. We have immigration laws, and the president goes to execute that law. Just like states in the South were trying to keep the law executed with the Fugitive Slave Act. That was the law of the land at that time. People can say whatever they want, but it wasn't the will of the people to overturn that law because Congress had not gotten a majority of votes to overturn that law. It's called a representative constitutional republic. And the representatives did not see it as the will of the people to overturn the Fugitive Slave Act. But other states weren't abiding by it. And you can't have a country where some states follow the law and some states not only don't follow the law, but go completely against it and try to do everything to obstruct it. Now think about what's going on today. We have immigration laws that are the laws of the land. And you literally can't have a country without borders, without proper immigration processes. You have to have a homogeneous people where at least more than 50% of the people have to have something in common with each other. Things like a common religion, or not necessarily religion in a dogmatic way, but at least a moral compass that they can agree upon at the very least. That's something you can have to help unify a country. You have to have physical borders and land that's outlined. That's also part of what it means to be a country. You also have a constitution. You have to have laws of the land, and they must be strictly followed equally for everybody. Equal justice for all. That's things that's supposed to make this country different than many other crappy countries. And that used to be what made the United States different. But we don't all follow the same laws anymore. We don't have a general consensus. You think of things as simple, yet as profound as skin color. There is no majority skin color. There's no more majority ethnicity. No, it's just turned into where everything's scatterbrained. Everything's all over the place. It's everybody for themselves. Everybody just wants to grab what they can, while a bunch of other people just want to destroy it all and watch it burn. And these people are getting paid by operatives. And there's tons of things linking. In my opinion, anyways, it's obvious to people like George Soros, many, many others. And if you watch and study George Soros, he literally has made his billions of dollars on making things fail, putting things into chaos. And once things go into chaos and get devalued, he buys them up. Now, I put that very, very, that's like the 40,000 foot overview of it, but look into it. This stuff's not organic. This stuff's been going on in a long time. This Antifa. This was actually started almost 100 years ago. This was going on in Italy back then. There's nothing new to any of this. But it's here right now, where you have governors, you have mayors, you have police that are literally not only not executing the laws of the land, but they're doing everything they can to go against the laws of the land. By any other definition, if this was happening anywhere else, this would literally be the definition of an insurrection. These would be foreign enemy combatants. These are international organizations. These are also domestic enemy combatants. And whenever anybody takes an oath to the Constitution for any public service, they have to take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic. All of you guys that served, you remember those lines in your oath, right? Foreign and domestic, that's key. And that oath's there for a reason, because the founding fathers realized that you would have enemies external, and the more dangerous ones are the enemies from within. And there's all of this going on right now that's very secular in nature. But it's also, unfortunately, become very religious in nature. So as the title says, the anti-gun pope and these gun-grabbing churches. Now, look, I mentioned the Pope when he made these announcements in August. And look, man, like, I get it. I do. Unfortunately, it's sad. I get it. But I got some pushback on that. Well, the Pope didn't really. He didn't. That's okay. I get it. I have receipts. I'm going to read some quotes from the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church, which is essentially ran out of a country, an entity, a super country that supersedes all countries, that's protected by some of the most advanced guns, armament, enough to supply a small military in the Vatican, the Swiss Guard, and others. The Catholic Church is coming after your guns right now, and many other churches are. And trust me, when some of you are gloating right now, you might get mad at me too, but don't gloat and start getting on the Catholics in the chat too much, because I'm gonna call out the Protestants too in a few minutes. You know, I'm sitting here looking at all of this, and I'm looking at just the decline in the moral compass of this country right now, and how they're going after our guns every day, and they're doing it from a completely secular. They're doing it for a completely secular aspect in so many ways. And it's like, well, if us Christians can just get together, and become like a Christian nation again. And I don't mean we need a state mandated religion from the federal government. That's antithetical. That's covered in the First Amendment. But I am saying, like, just to agree on like a general moral ethos, a moral compass. That's the very least when it comes to being able to just have a country. I'm thinking to myself more and more lately, like maybe that's the tie that can bind and something we can bond around just to save our country with our voices, with our guns. But here's what's so frustrating me here right now. These big churches, these church industrial complexes, they're after our country. They're destroying our borders. They're facilitating all these illegals to raid our country. They're out there just in the last week hearing stories of the different ministers and pastors trying to aid and abet these illegals against these ICE agents who are following the president's lawful orders to deport these illegals. They're handing out debit cards. They're facilitating flights. They're kicking veterans out of their housing to house these illegals. And then now the churches are coming after our guns? No, they literally are. And I know your church probably isn't, and I'm glad it's not. And if you have a God-fearing pastor that's not afraid of his own shadow and is still willing to preach from the pulpit and still willing to preach a little fire and brimstone once in a while, maybe he'll even read a verse from Revelations, that type of pastor, then that's awesome. And please let me know if you guys have encouraging news like that in the chat. But a lot of these pastors out there in these churches and these priests and this pope and these cardinals and these bishops and all of this, first of all, they become weak. Yeah, weak, which is going to allow evil to prevail. Second of all, they become anti-gun. Third of all, they become anti-borders and they become anti-country. And this is what's really sad. This is what's really sad. I've seen a lot of these ministers, pastors, preachers, there's many names, depending what orthodoxy you're under, that are actually preaching things that are 100% antithetical to the Bible. So I'm sitting here thinking right now, man, like, if Christianity or the common ethos thereof can't bind us together, what the heck can? Because I believe that's the only thing. Jesus is the only way that I can save my soul. And I believe it's the only way this country can be saved. But it's frustrating because they're against our guns. They're against our country. They're against our borders. And listening to some of these sermons lately and some of the things that they're proclaiming and some of the things they're advertising, they're especially against the Bible. You guys see the parallels, right? We literally have factions in this country that are in leadership, governors, senators, mayors, police that are 100% against the laws of this land. Now we have religious leaders that are 100% against the Bible, it seems like, in almost every way you can possibly imagine. And here's the kicker. I'm not a biblical scholar. Okay? The more I'm reading parts of the Bible that I'm struggling with, the more I'm actually still struggling with it, okay? The more you know, the more you don't know. But I'll tell you, there's a few things that are laid out pretty darn clear. So yeah, I'm sitting here just looking at this country, trying to think of a path forward. Trying to think of things like maybe some real simple things going on. Like, can we use the Constitution to bind us together? That'd be great. Can we use God? Because look back. This is what helped bind the country at its very, very founding, okay? And trust me, don't conflate what I'm saying here. I'm not saying everybody needs to become Baptist in this country. I'm not saying everyone needs to be Catholic. Because the First Amendment made it pretty clear that the government is not going to set up a mandatory nationwide religion. And I understand why. But at the same time, it literally says in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal. And they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you had those, what more could you possibly need? These are beautiful things. And it also literally says these are the laws of nature and nature's God. And these are the rights that God entitles us. Entitles them, it says. So, since I'm not like the type of guy that's going to like learn, and I'm not smart enough to like, oh, this is what you'd have to do to like create like an awesome country. And I'm not going to be able to do that. But what I encourage all of us to do is just look back at the founding fathers of this country, who with a divine providence, they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And a lot of them did have to give up their sacred honor, lives, and fortunes, all of the above. And I look at that and I say, well, that's probably about the only thing that can save us is going back to how this darn country was supposed to be run to begin with and how it was supposed to be run this whole time. And then I get frustrated with this woke Pope, all right? Pope Francis, oh yeah, he was woke too. This new one, this new woke Pope, he's blessing ice, like a chunk of ice. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. He's blessing a piece of ice. Makes me remember scripture about finding the people up on the mountain worshiping a golden calf. He's also calling for gun control. There's many churches throughout this country, and I'm going to highlight a local one here to southeastern Michigan that's after your guns. We're going to get into all that in 1 minute, and then I'm going to say what's going on with Colt and CZ in Canada. Allegedly, according to people, they're going to be the ones destroying and melting down and shredding or whatever all these guns that are going to be picked up. And why should we care as Americans or not? Before we get into all that, I want to thank all of you for the many ways you help support the channel. Thank you to all my channel members who I see in the chat right now. I see Drain the Swamp, Mike McClune. What's happening, Mike McClune? How you been doing, man? I see Gort. What's happening, Gort? Pillbox Bunker. Dale. There she is, Jane Locke, the lovely Jane Locke. Yes, ma'am. I agree. Rosie A. What's happening? No, people have gotten weak, and yes, weak men do create hard times. So thank you to all my channel members. Thank you to those of you who may leave a super chat. You guys are the channel sponsors. I'm not doing any ad reads whatsoever tonight, although there are some links that can help the channel down in the description where I will earn some commission. And thank you to the Patreon supporters as well as locals, which is a different site, censorship free. We're posting deals there every day. Some of them are literally hotter than a firecracker on the 4th of July. And we also did 2 live streams last week over there. So make sure you check that out as well as following 2A over on X. So thank you to all of you who help keep the channel going, because this is a very small grassroots channel. And hello, Dr. Sean Berry. What's happening, Raw 77? I usually say hi to you guys at the end of the chat, and I always miss all these people at the beginning. Live Life, Alabama. Shout out to the Deep South. But look, you guys remember back in August, Pope Francis came out. Yeah, I know. I know half my viewers are Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. Okay. But let me know what you all think about this. He came out and condemned the, quote, pandemic of arms. When I said that, so people came back to me and said, well, hold on to AEDU. He didn't actually. He's not calling for gun control. Okay. And I didn't have all the quotes. I had just said, dude, it literally had happened that day. I was like, I literally heard the Pope out there. He was up in the big building like he does, talking out of the window. And I heard him spewing all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this guy's like anti-gun. If I'm not mistaken, he's calling for gun control here. So I'm going to go with, just to give things the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to read a little bit from Google AI. Now, do I recommend? using AI if you want to get biased news? No. So they're actually framing it, in my opinion, to stick up for the Pope as much as possible here, actually. So to make sure I'm not being too biased, because I'm really getting frustrated with these religious industrial complexes lately. You know, look, here's what I believe. I'm going to put it very bluntly because it's very easy and very hard, and few find the path. But this concept's very easy to understand. Is it easy to execute? No, it's very difficult. But I believe the only way to heaven is through Jesus. Period. That's what I truly believe in. I don't believe I need all these intermediaries in between me, but some people do. Okay? And I don't understand all of the dogmas of the Catholic Church, but I do understand this. I do understand the Pope is the leader of all of it. This is the head person in the entire Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church. This is partially, look, it's Christianity no matter what. But it has very strong religious aspects to it, but it also still has part of the Roman Empire wrapped up into it. There are still aspects of the government of the former Roman Empire within the Catholic Church. That's part of this. So yes, it's a religion. Shout out to all my Catholic friends. I'm not against you. Trust me. I'm not in a fight with you. But there is still a very like governmental aspect to this. It still carries overs from the Roman Empire. Yes. Orthodoxy split off from the modern day Catholics. That's a whole thing. I'm not going to get into a big religious argument or fight. That's not my intentions right now. But I am saying this is an extremely popular sect of Christianity. But there's lots of governmental aspects to it, and there always have been. So when the Pope's calling for gun control, this is nothing to take lightly. This is an extremely powerful person. Very intertwined with the governments of the world and with the government of the United States. Don't believe me? Look into what I brought up earlier. With the Catholic-funded NGOs, which means non-governmental organizations, this is where a lot of the money gets laundered through. This is where we have that reciprocal thing where the dog normally wags its own tail, except for sometimes when it doesn't, and the tail actually wags the dog. And it sounds unconventional, and you're right, it is unconventional. And when the tail's wagging the dog, you think to yourself, whoa, something ain't right here. You should trust your instincts because you're a smart person if you realize that. That's never a good thing when the tail's wagging the dog, all right? Just to get the obvious out there. Because now everybody that has like common sense and can just kind of call a spade. Yeah, you get called dumb by everybody. No. Something ain't right here. But if you look, you follow the money, you follow the power. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's what Lord Acton said pre-founding of the United States. And that was one of the ethos that the founding fathers followed. And that's why they set up this government the way they did, very particularly with the Second Amendment, knowing that we would start to get powerful leaders in this country, powerful religious forces, powerful dark evil forces, which is why we should always put on the whole armor of God, right, Jane Locke? But we would have all of these forces. And once people become powerful, they generally corrupt. And once they become absolutely powerful, they tend to corrupt absolutely. It's just kind of the nature of things. And Lord Acton noted that, 350 years ago now? I believe that was late 1600s when he said that. I could be off by a few years. I have no script. But when the Pope says stuff like this is nothing to be taken lightly. Do we agree on that at least? A very powerful person. And you look at these NGOs that are facilitating lawbreakers in this country, illegals. Well, when we have laws to try to keep this country a country, but then we have groups stepping in, private groups along with governmental groups. This is this unholy alliance between government and private non-governmental groups. But the problem is the government funds them, and then they fund the government. And it's this circular thing where you're just work your whole butt off, taxed to no end, with a jackboot on your neck, making it hard to exercise your natural rights. And these people are just laundering the money through like a laundromat. Like a good old mobster laundromat, just filling up those industrial side washers, just washing it and circulating it, and just greasing that cog, the cog of the machine of all these different industrial complexes. So the same people, and I don't mean all the good people going to a small country Catholic church. I don't mean all the good Episcopalians that are going to the, look, it's not about just you individually. Don't anyone take this personally. But these same groups that are going through, trying to tear down the fabric of this country, literally destroy this country from the inside and out, are also trying to take our guns, which is about the only dang thing we'll have left when the wolves are literally at our doors. And in many neighborhoods throughout this country right now, where there's just prolific violence, they are literally at their doors. And I know they won't be at your door until one day they are. But they're going after your country. From a pragmatic standpoint, they're going after your country from a philosophical standpoint. And many of these churches out there are going after Christianity in and of itself from the pulpit of a so-called Christian church. So that's why this is real dangerous when these people are actually also going after your guns. Pope Leo. This is an American Pope. Very happy day for many people. I can remember it well. Lots of celebrating in the streets of Chicago, right? Recently condemned the, quote, pandemic of arms following a school shooting in Minneapolis, calling for an end to the spread of weapons. His predecessor, Pope Francis, also consistently spoke out against gun violence and the arms trade, once stating that the Second Amendment is not, quote, more important than human life. Both popes, so the previous and the current, have linked the violence to the proliferation of weapons and have called for greater dialogue and peace. This is Pope Leo. Quote, pandemic of arms. Pope Leo, the first American pope, used this phrase in his first public comments on the issues in August 2025 following a school shooting in Minneapolis. Pandemic of arms. That's interesting. You remember this whole country was brought down to its knees, where you weren't allowed to freely travel. They tried to make it where you didn't have power or rights to your own body, that you would be subject to injections of substances, to even be able to, in many cases, trade in society, to be able to work in society, to be able to go visit your grandmother in her dying days in a nursing home. Remember all of that? Making it where you could get arrested for walking on a beach by yourself. If Christians tried to go to church, the government would shut it down. While these so-called mostly peaceful protests, they could gather in the thousands and tens of thousands, burn down, raze whole cities. They tried to make Kyle Rittenhouse fry for protecting his hometown. Remember that? The mostly peaceful protesters, they called it. They brought this country to its knees. We're still paying for that right now. That's why it's so hard for a lot of you to pay your bills. They printed a bunch of money. The destruction, the carnage, turned us all into slaves in so many ways during this time period. You know, there's more people in the world actually literally enslaved now than there was in the mid-1800s in the world, by the way. Like, a lot more. But they made us a different type of slave. They were putting forth orders. Governors such as Whitmer were saying gun shops are non-essential businesses. Do you remember that? They were trying to make it where you couldn't even go buy a gun because of a pandemic. Look, when you hear pandemic in the United States now, and you were alive in 2020, that should have a whole new meaning now. Look, Pandemic's no longer just a medical term. And YouTube, whoever's watching, I'm not giving medical advice. In my opinion, it's obvious. Pandemic is no longer just what you read in your medical classes. No, pandemic's a new way of life. Pandemic's a control. As Fauci said, someone asked him, they said, Dr. Fauci, when are we going to get back to normal? And he chuckled. Do you remember that? He said, normal? This is the new normal. Look, if you said pandemic in the year 1985, 1995, it might have had a certain meaning to the average person. You know what I mean? You say pandemic in the year 2025 with all of this pandemic entailed, the pandemic, right? Of 2020. Look, I'm just going to be blunt. You'd have to be out and out stupid to not realize what pandemic means in this day and age. It's a very, very, very powerful statement to say the pandemic of arms. Because when you have a pandemic, this country's showing and proven that you'll be brought right down to your knees. That at all costs, they'll take your life from you to save your life when there's a pandemic. Just think about that for a minute. They'll take your life to save your life. Oh, how stoic. The pandemic of arms. But here's the problem. A gun is neither inherently good nor evil. It's an inanimate object, isn't it? Yeah, there's evil people who purport evil things. We have very broken people. We have no unified moral compass in this country. Of course, we have all kinds of evil people. We have the pharmaceutical industrial complex leading to a lot of this. We have many, many things. I'm sitting here looking at the chat and, well, what I'm talking about may be falling on deaf ears or even reluctant ears for the most part. And I believe it's becoming very apparent. But you know what? I don't care because I got to get some stuff off my chest. So I'll look back at the chat in a few minutes. Pandemic of arms. There's evil people. There's always going to be evil. This has always been a battle of good versus evil, isn't it? It's really all this is ever about. And there's also, though, many, many good people out there. And many more times each year, good people save good lives with a gun than take lives actually, but they never report on that. The government does everything they can to suppress it. I would hope such a religiously powerful person like the Pope would come out and say, you know what? There was an evil person. But God bless all those good people who have stopped so many more shootings each year with guns. We need to put on the armor of God. We need to sell our cloak and buy a sword. And we need all Christians to unite and stand up for what's right in this country. And we need a country that was founded on the divine providence of God to actually stand up for what's right in this country. You know, that would have been a very encouraging, unifying message. But he's demonizing the gun itself. He's saying the gun in and of itself is an evil entity and that it's a pandemic. It's something that by they exist could wipe out all of human civilization. That's what pandemic means. And this is me reading Google AI. I'm giving you the liberal take on this. And then I'm giving you my thoughts, obviously. Call for peace. He pleaded for an end to the spread of arms, quote, big and small, and called for a, quote, serious commitment to dialogue in place of violence. Yeah, dialogue is in talking about gun control, trying to end the spread of arms, big and small. I would think to myself, such a powerful religious leader would be trying to stop the spread of evil amongst people, not trying to stop the spread of arms. Look, you could take every gun and collect it in the whole world, and you're never going to be able to do that. But for all of you who are second order thinkers, if you don't mind engaging a hypothetical with me just for a minute, let's just assume under this hypothetical, I know it would never happen, I get it, just pretend that every gun was picked up in this whole world, melted down, destroyed, and all of the knowledge on how to even create a gun was vanished away from all written and mental records. Under this hypothetical, no guns exist at this point. They're not thought of, and nobody even knows how to make one and doesn't even know to try to make one because they don't even know what it is. You guys follow me so far? Would violence end? Would violence end? Of course it wouldn't. And I don't know if he has or not, but if I dare say, had the Pope read Genesis, which is a book in the Bible, and it happens to be the first book, he might actually understand that. Because the Pope doesn't watch my channel, but if he were to, I would inform him. And I would say, dear leader of the biggest religion in the world, the most Christian followers under your hierarchy in the world, I would inform him and I would say, dear Pope, it doesn't say that Cain killed Abel with a gun, did it? Of course not. With a rock, with a stone, depending on what version of the Bible you read. So then it makes me just start questioning other things. Does this Pope and many, many religious leaders, have they just never read the good book even once? Honest question. Have they never read it even once or any of it at all? I understand this much of it. If you would have asked me a couple years ago, I would have said I understood half of it. There was a time in my life where I pretty much thought I understood all of it. But I'll say this. Violence has been written about a long, long time ago. Long before guns were around. Long before guns were invented. You could pick up every gun in the whole world and get rid of all of them. Every last one. That would never happen. But if you could, wouldn't change a dang thing. See, the more things seem to change, the more they stay the same. Serious commitment to dialogue. Yeah, sure, actually, but these people would spend more time preaching from the good book. I think this world and country could be a lot better place. I'm talking about this country right now, not the world. This country is all I really have the capacity to care about at this point because we have too many problems here to really waste any bandwidth on the rest of the world. Yes, I'm a nationalist, okay? I believe in America first, and with how bad this country's getting, I believe in America only at this point, actually. There you go. Two-way Edu is a nationalist. Yes, I am actually. We have to be. This country's so close to just being gone. I think it actually is already gone, but I'm just hoping through divine providence, maybe we can get it together. We're going to need a lot of help, though. And instead of talking about gun control, we should be having our religious leaders devote their messages more to Scripture, more from the Word of God, instead of trying to spread gun control propaganda. This is dovetailing off of Pope Francis, the previous Pope, who said arms trade. Pope Francis frequently condemned the arms industry, referring to gun manufacturers as, quote, merchants of death. to all my Catholic friends, how does this work? Do you guys have a vote? Can you guys vote the Pope out? Do you have any say at all? I'm not a member of a Catholic church. I have no say. I have no vote. Is there a vote? Is it just a unilateral authoritarian thing? Please educate me on this, because I know so many gun-toting Catholics that say, from my cold dead hands. But still, though, putting money in the coffers, who are going to fund illegals and fund calls for gun control by the last two popes. I don't know how this reconciles. I know there's a lot of Catholics probably watching right now that this doesn't reconcile with. You're not happy about it. So what can Catholics do about this? You tell me if you're a Catholic, okay? Do you guys have any vote? Like, if enough of you say no, we still want to be Catholics, but we do not want our leader to be calling for gun control. Can you stop it through like a vote or a diplomatic way? Is there? You tell me, please. Pope Francis called them merchants of death. Civilian gun use. He warned that the use of guns by civilians for self-defense had become, quote, a habit, a bad habit. Gun control. He called for new limits on gun sales, famously stating that the Second Amendment is not, quote, more important than human life. Well, if I would have been able to go back in time and talk to that Pope, I would have said, but you're not citing the statistics that prove that many more times a good person saves good lives with a gun than a bad person. But they won't cite that. And why is it so frustrating that almost every person I know that's a devout Catholic is as conservative and gun-toting as it gets? It's true. It's true. And I mean that as a compliment. But these popes are like so left-wing woke and calling to grab all the guns. Makes no sense to me. Makes me wonder what hope there even is in this country at all anymore. Specific remarks. I'm going over the last decade here, and I'm going to stop with this. And I'm going to get onto a whole nother church in 1 second here. And it's not a Catholic church, okay? I ain't trying to pick on the Catholics. I'm just not happy with these woke popes that's been around for the last decade. And probably more than that. I don't know. Specific remarks. In a 2015 speech to the U.S. Congress, he questioned why weapons were being sold for profit, stating, quote, money that is drenched in blood, often innocent blood. Really? It's just getting to the point now where if you just want to be a white, Christian, conservative male in this country, everybody hates you. White females, too, for the most part, and even females of other colors, too. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying the epitome of it. The most hated man in America is the white, Christian, straight male. Everybody hates you. Your religious leaders hate you and your guns. Your government hates you. Now, maybe not every last person, but everybody that's any color but you hates you generally. I'm generalizing, but I'm just saying. Just saying. If you're not gay, tri, bi, transmission, whatever, you're supposed to be ashamed of yourself and some kind of freak. No thanks, actually. I'm sorry, but I have a wife who I absolutely love, and she's absolutely gorgeous, okay? And there's a difference between a man and a woman, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm also not going to apologize for wanting to live in a country that says the right to keep and bear arms, it shall not be infringed. And I'm not going to apologize for reading the Bible that says that a woman shall not lie beside a woman and a male shall not lie beside another man. I don't care how many lesbian Methodist ministers wearing a rainbow flag tell me that it's different than that, actually. Everything's just blasphemy now. Have you guys noticed that? The churches hate Christianity. The government that has the Second Amendment hates guns. There's all these cities and states in this country. Sanctuary city, sanctuary state, meaning the whole state of California is a sanctuary for illegals. That would be called like an enemy combatant country, wouldn't it? Think about this. To have a state in the United States that says we will do everything we can to tear down the laws of America. How is that possible? And then they like to preach lately and they like to talk about Peter. You know what I mean? Peter, Simon Peter. Are you guys familiar? Near the end, I'm saying end in air quotes, of Jesus' life on earth, but actually it was just the beginning though, wasn't it? It was the end in one sense, but it was the beginning of the way that all of us may be saved. Many people genuinely do believe in that. I do. Told his disciples, you're going to need to take up a sword. Lots of danger was heading their way, and it did. If you look at what went on to happen to them and their families afterwards, lots of danger was heading their way. But what if we don't have a sword? Well, sell your cloak or your garment, depending what version you read, and buy a sword. I have 2 swords, and Jesus said that is enough. Think about that. That'd be like saying I have 2 AR-15s, 1 in each hand. You can't really carry more than that. Okay? You can't really carry more than that. 2 swords at that time was as well armed as you could be. I'm paraphrasing, skipping a few spots, not reading from the Bible right now, and not having every word memorized, but I do know the gist of it. They have the supper, Last Supper, Lord's Supper. Gets to the point where the guards are ready to take Jesus away. Up on the hill with a cross. A lot of you are familiar. It's one of the most famous stories of all time. And Peter's sitting there with his sword. They go to grab Jesus and to stop them. Like, no, you can't take him. You can't kill him. He didn't want him to die. Slashes off one of the guards' ear. Slashes the ear right off. Jesus performs a miracle on the spot and puts his ear back on and heals it. Tells Peter, put away your sword. Now the anti-gun ministry industrial complex, they stop right there and they say that proves that Jesus is anti-weapon. That proves Jesus needs to be a pacifist because Peter was just violent. And just for the sake of violence, he cut off ear. No, he was trying to save Jesus. But if you stop right there, and they do stop it, they'll never read the next sentence. They'll never get into the next sentence. They'll never get into the next part that tells you why. And that's the only important part. But look, they just think about this. If you just stop right there, which they often do, and I've been hearing a lot of sermons lately where they're like, no, Jesus was anti-sword, anti-weapon. Jesus is anti-gun. And he said, no. Cut off his ear. Jesus, with a miracle, heals the ear back and says, put your sword away, put your sword down. There's different translations. Again, I'm not reading it verbatim, but that's the gist. And I say, see, that proves Jesus wants you all to put your guns down. Melt them all, turn them into the local church gun buyback, which we're going to get to in a minute. But it doesn't go on to explain why Jesus told him to do that, because the prophecies must be fulfilled. See, Jesus wasn't just some random person where, in most cases, it is good self-defense. Like if somebody's coming to haul you away, to kill you, to take you away somewhere, to do some irreparable harm, you're supposed to defend yourself against that. It was different with Jesus. I think it's fair to say, no matter how you read the Bible, Jesus wasn't just a regular person, obviously. No, he wasn't saying, he told them to take the sword so they could protect themselves and their family, so they could keep the ministry alive. But Jesus had to fulfill the prophecies. Jesus had to die on that cross to become the ultimate sacrificial lamb. And Jesus was tempted by sin many times in the Bible, actually. And the way I understand the Bible, Jesus may have been tempted to have his life saved in the spur of the moment. And what Peter was doing was actually heroic. He was trying to save Jesus's life. Like just think about that. And Jesus didn't say to put down the sword because we have to be pacifist and we have to be 100% weak in every way and that you can't defend yourself. No, the prophecy had to be fulfilled, because if Jesus couldn't fulfill the prophecy, if he couldn't fulfill what he had to do, then he wouldn't have been able to sacrifice himself and allow just normal, regular people to be able to actually get to heaven through him. See, in the Old Testament, there were many, many things you had to do. And to me, it seems a lot more complicated to get to heaven in the Old Testament. I think that's me putting it lightly. Do you agree? You know, the 10 Commandments, which is still good to follow as a general ethos to keep a country together, obviously. But after Jesus, there's actually only one commandment, if you're a New Testament believer. But see, we have these churches and these preachers and these ministers and these pastors and all of these. I'm not being denominational right now. I'm seeing it more and more across the board. And there's a lot of them that don't do this, but there's a lot of them that do actually. Jesus healed the ear when he was getting ready to be led to his own death. And he said, Peter, put that sword away. Put your sword down. We're not the fighting kind. No, he actually said, I have to carry my own cross and wear a crown of thorns and be ridiculed in every way and die a slow, nasty, gruesome death. Crucifixion, one of the nastiest deaths you could ever go through, they say. They say it's literally one of the nastiest ways to die. Then in 3 days he arose from the dead, and he is risen. Right now, he is risen. Somebody tried to correct my vocabulary. They're like, you mean he was risen? Because was, like, this happened a long time ago. I'm like, no, Jesus is. He is risen. It's not Jesus was, Jesus is. I'll tell you what. It's not just my opinion. This is my sincerely held belief. If Jesus hadn't died on that cross, if his disciples would have had this ultimate sword fight and he would have escaped, if he would have escaped his journey to hang, I don't know how I'd be getting to heaven, I'll tell you that much, just to put it very lightly. This is a serious topic for a lot of people. It's just so disingenuous when somebody only reads like just a teeny part of it and they just won't finish the next sentence or two. But I've been hearing more and more lately, reading / listening. I've done a bit of both. Where they're like, no, when Jesus said, put that sword down, that's basically Jesus telling you, you all need to put your guns down and give them to the church so the church can mow them all. Which leads me to, this is about a week ago, 6 days ago, October 4th. Would have covered it in my last stream, but my last stream was Friday the 3rd. Another gun buyback event happening in Metro Detroit today. This was on the 4th. Father Chris Yaw. Father Chris Yaw. And Disarmory Ministries. Can't make this up. I'd like to tell you I'm making this up. Let me say this one more time. For those of you who had your speakers down, turn it up. Crank it up, right? Father Chris Yaw and Disarmory Ministries. Yeah. Collect and destroy unwanted and unused firearms every weekend. This weekend they are at St. John's Episcopal Church in Plymouth, Michigan. Now, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Father Chris Yaw and the Disarmory Ministries. Keep in mind, this particular outfit, as far as I recall, was there testifying in front of the Michigan House 2 years ago when they modified the laws in Michigan and said all guns from buybacks have to be destroyed. They can't be parted out. They can't be resold at auction from local police so that poor people can afford firearms that want to protect themselves. No, they all have to be destroyed now. So in Michigan, as the way the law has been for over a year now, this is them destroying the guns. You've watched this outfit before, maybe in the past. If you're familiar, sitting there taking a rifle and running a chop saw right down the middle of the barrel, making SBRs right there in front of the news, right on TV. Just some of the craziest stuff you've ever seen. I'm not a lawyer, not a cop, but in my layman's opinion, watching them just commit felonies one after another. Have you guys ever seen how they do it? They'll literally sit there and they'll take a shotgun and they'll just kind of look at half of it and yank it in half. Yeah. Now you have a shotgun with maybe a 2-3 inch, maybe 5-inch barrel left. That is the 100% epitome of they just made an SBS with no provisions, pursuant to the NFA, no tax stamp. Now, look, I'm not a fan of the NFA or the tax stamp or the free tax stamp, as many of you already well know. However, these are the gun grabbers that want more gun control laws, and they're breaking gun laws right there in front of the media, and you see this so often that this is literally documented. Now, father is actually a pretty astute title, isn't it? Now, I don't know if this has all just become so dogmatic now and it's just a formality. I don't know, but to call somebody father, that's kind of with a lot of reverence, isn't it? This is Father Chris Yaw and the Disarmory Ministries. That's their actual name. They go around to different churches. This is the Episcopal Church this time around. So many sects now of, you've got the Catholicism gun control agenda, and I'm talking from the hierarchy, not every last Catholic. Same thing with the Protestants. You've got so many of the Protestants now with their churches that are part of the gun control industrial complex. There's a lot of money to be made at this. These are non-governmental organizations. Here's a memo that the Disarmory. Here, I'll show you guys just so you can see it. Sometimes a little visual effect helps a little bit. I'm pissed off about all this, okay? If you guys can't tell by now, you're like, duh, we can tell. There you go. There's their logo. The Disarmory Ministries, and they show a cross with like rays of sun coming from it. But they obliterate the cross and cover the cross up with the word Disarmory. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be too pedantic, but that frustrates me already. To me, that's blasphemy in and of itself to be portraying a cross like that. So I don't even like looking at their logo. This is a memo they put out October 4th, 2025, and they put these out all the time. I've read tons of them. This is the most recent one. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., St. John's Episcopal Church in Plymouth, Michigan. Do any of you go there? If you do you have any kind of vote or say that who's running your church? Look, we're to the point now where the inmates are running the asylum. Let's just face it. No, literally. The devil's running the churches in so many instances. The communists are running this republic. These governors that by any other time would be considered like foreign enemy combatants, they're actually like powerful leaders within our country that in so many cases hate our country and are trying to tear it down. Do you have a firearm you no longer want, it says? I'd like to just see Jesus pack into the church again, okay? Is that too much to ask? I actually like to talk about God and Jesus and listen to people talk about the Word of God. I really do. And lately, half the time, I try to listen to some of these sermons from different people, looking forward to it. Halfway through, I've heard every socialist, communist agenda, and it's like, dude, I'm a half hour through this 45-minute sermon, and I haven't even heard of Jesus yet. Like, you guys know what I'm saying? And I know all churches are not like this, and I'm so grateful that they're not all like this. But it's like, man, oh man, is that just disenchanting and disheartening, and it's sad? And if you can't tell, I'm actually really sad about it. You listen to a church service 3/4 of the way through, and you've yet to even hear the word Jesus in a Christian church? I'll hear lesbian, I'll hear rainbow, I'll hear Black Lives Matter. I'll hear anti-whiteism from some of these churches. A lot of anti-white rhetoric in a lot of these churches nowadays. I've been noticing more and more. You know, you think to yourself, oh, St. John's Episcopal Church. Let's hear what they have to say about God today. No, there's no time for that in the church because we have to have the Disarmory Ministries coming in. Disarmory Ministries. Join St. John's Episcopal Church, located at 574 South Sheldon Road, Plymouth, on Saturday, October 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for a community gun disposal event. See? Community now. Now we're going to bring the community in. Look, the government wants your children from cradle to grave. It's the NGO, it's the government. It's the NGO, it's the government. Well, it depends, see? The dog's strutting along, he's wagging his own tail, but then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, look at there. Something ain't right here. There's this tail, and it's standing still, and now it's wagging the dog. Yeah, this is part of all of this. It's part of all this. Mao, the communist revolution, color revolution, making children hate their parents. Look, the school wants your children. They keep starting school younger and younger. Now they want your children in the public schools at 3 years old. Not only is it free lunch for everybody now in Michigan, it's free breakfast for everybody. Millionaires, homeless, it doesn't matter. Just free. Get them in with the free lunch. Guns are bad. You're like, man, this world's a messed up place. I need to walk closer with Jesus. So you go to the church and they're after your guns. They're after your country. Trying to make, not trying to make and remind you to be guilty of your sins, but trying to make you in many cases feel guilty because you're straight, feel guilty because you're white, feel guilty because you love your country and you love the Constitution, make you feel guilty because you're the Second Amendment, make you feel guilty that you're not participating in some of the deadliest sins that are warned about in the Bible. If you're not participating in all the sin, you have to feel guilty now. Just think about this. Volunteers will be on site to safely dismantle and transform donated rifles. This is where they break the NFA just constantly. Safely dismantle and transform donated rifles, pistols, and assault weapons. Assault weapon, that's a made-up term. Propaganda's thick here in these ministries, in this church. Donors will receive gift cards. Up now, the tail's wagging the dog again. Where's these gift cards coming from? Wouldn't you like to know? No, that's like what I hear in my head. I actually hear something darker than that. My voice is too hoarse to talk much deeper right now. Donors will receive gift cards to retailers such as Target and Meijer as a token of appreciation. Target, they were the ones selling all these tuck swimsuits. They say they've changed it a little bit. There was a time a few years ago, you walk into Target and it starts to beckon you back to the Bible, the stories of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Meijer, well, let's just say with the Meijer family and Fred Meijer, there's just certain types of people you're not allowed to talk about. If you know what I mean. Some of you guys know what I mean. He's dog whistling. Yeah, we're on YouTube, okay? I'm dog whistling, okay? Sometimes you know who's in power by who you're not allowed to talk about and their hat, and I'll just say Meyer and leave it at that. You can look into it if you're not familiar. Participants, but no, this all ties in though. Trust me, I was not digressing. Actually, this is the epitome of a lot of this. Participants are also invited to take part in a creative art activity using the deconstructed gun parts, turning instruments of harm into symbols of hope. So they cut the guns up, in many cases violating the NFA, and then you use pieces of them to create art. How cute. How precious. I'm going to the church. I'm like, well, can I see a nice picture of the crucifix so I can try to humble myself and get my spiritual mind right for the day? No, I just see twisted guns all over the place and stuff. It's like, really? According to national surveys, over 25% of firearms owners acquire their weapons through non-purchase transfers. Oh, wait a minute now. So the universal background checks? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Come on. Get them commies in here as quick as you can. Get them all registered. Pick them all up. Ask Canada about that. I don't give a crap about Canada. We have too many problems in our own country. But look, guys, if I have any Canadian viewers, shout out to you, man. You're just going to have to take care of yourself. We have too many problems here. Don't care. No, I'm serious. I don't care what's going on anywhere right now. When I'm seeing my own darn country this messed up, on the verge of complete collapse, sorry about your luck, but ask the Canadians about this. They'll tell you all about it. The registry, the door-to-door. We're going to touch briefly on Colt CZ Canada in just a minute here, but I'm going to continue. According to national surveys, over 25% of firearms owners acquire their weapons through non-purchase transfers, such as inheritances or gifts. Duh, that's like the American way, right? That's the only way things should be transferred, actually. I mean, that's literally what the Second Amendment says. It doesn't allow for infringements and background checks and Form 4473s. Representing nearly 100 million firearms. Many of these are unwanted or unintentional acquisitions. Many of, I doubt it. You guys have a bunch you don't want? I'll give you the address to my local FFL, and I'll take them off your hands, you know? And I won't destroy them. This event is held in partnership with Disarmory Ministries, based in Berkeley, Michigan. The nation's first continuous gun buyback program. This is perpetual. It's continuous. Their mission is to reduce firearm-related harm. They must have had a conversation with the Pope. Back to demonizing the firearm again. By offering safe, discreet disposal and gift card incentives. Where are those gift cards coming from? I know we send billions of dollars, more than what we're allowed to know about this teeny little country in the Middle East. There's Meyer gift cards? I don't know. Do your own research. Do the math. Whistle, whatever. See, I'm just getting it right out of there. 280, you're dog whistling. Yes, I am. So what? Deal with it. I care about my country right now. Their mission is reduce firearm related by offering safe, discreet. What do you have to hide? See, we'll use their logic. What do you have to hide? Why are you being so discreet? That's what the cops say to you. Why do you have to hide? Just show me your guns. Show me your papers. These people have something to hide, though. They're being very discreet. Removing unwanted firearms helps protect children. This is the biggest miscited quote. This is just wrong. Children for whom firearms are the leading cause of death in the U.S. It's literally not true, and it's not even close. That is literally statistically provably a lie. Read Dr. John Lott's work. There you go. Read Dr. John Lott's work and many others. But once you read his work, you'll realize how much of a lie that is. It helps protect from children, individuals in mental distress, as access to firearms significantly increases certain risks. Word you're not supposed to say on this site. Yeah, we have lots of mental health issues. They won't try to tackle that. That's actually hard to do. The easy part is for all these conservatives just to go after all of our guns, and no one's going to do nothing about it. No one's ever going to do anything about it. The only side that ever does anything about anything are the violent leftist communist extremists. Most, quote, conservatives just want to be left alone. You know, just want to be left alone. The broader community, since many gun crimes involve stolen weapons. Yeah, and they'll give them cashless bail. They steal, they pillage, they murder, and they let them right out the next day. He killed a man 2 days ago, 2 days ago, he killed some other innocent girl walking down the street. Well, how's that possible? They check them in, they feed them, 3 hots in a cot, and they let them right on the revolving doors, just right out on the streets. We need to get guns off the streets. No, maybe we need to get violent murderers off the streets, actually. Maybe there's a bunch of people on our streets that shouldn't even be here. Get them out. If you can't come to this country the proper way, get out. Gone. Don't want you here. But hold on to it, Edu. They haven't committed a crime. No. It's illegal to be here illegally. It's like you can't. How do you even explain this to people? Here's the problem. You can't even talk to these people anymore. Well, hold on. If they haven't done anything illegal, they're here illegally. They've done something illegal. Get them out. I don't want them here. 2AE to you. You're bigoted. You're this. You're a racist. No, speak English or get the heck out. I'm sorry. There has to be some homogeneous bond or you literally can't have a country. All right? I know people that have come from other countries that weren't brought up knowing a lick of English. But guess what? They wanted to be a good American when they came here. It's hard to become an American the right way, which it should be hard. It's called separating the wheat from the chaff, okay? We want people that want to be here for the right reasons. And I think we need a new quota where we just get all the illegals out of this country right now, gone. And then all the people that hate being here, that want reparations from people from stuff that they say happened in the 1860s and prior. Anyone that wants a reparation, anyone that's ungrateful to be here, will just do a trade. For every good one that wants to come in here and learn English, they can come in, everything properly, cross their T's, dot their I's, sit up straight. No, I'm serious. It's called merit-based. It's an honor and a privilege to come in this country. Don't believe me? Ask some of the good immigrants because they'll tell you. And some of these have become some of the best Americans. Make no mistake. But these people that have been here for all these decades, centuries now, and they want me to pay for them because of the color of my skin. How about this? For every immigrant that comes, one of them can get on the airplane and they can go back. You hate America so much? Fine, great. Let's make this a win-win. I hate America. I hate you two, AEDU, because of the color of your skin. Great. We're going to have a win-win. Guess what? Pablo here seems like a pretty good dude. He's willing to pass the test. He's willing to learn English. He comes in here, loves his country, speaks English. You can speak to him. You know what I mean? He follows a decent moral compass. He's a respectable person. He's clean. That's fine. We'll just trade him for, just to make up some random name. Jamal can just jump on the plane and go back to sub-Saharan Africa where they're still struggling to build 2-story buildings. Everyone will be happy. He'll love it. That's actually me trying to be completely nice. Give them what they want. Everyone that's in this country that hates it, They'll just go to another country where they'll find something to their likeness. Anyone that hates the Second Amendment, hey, guess what? That's the Second Amendment. That's the law of the land. You hate the laws of this country, meaning the real legitimate laws, the Bill of Rights, the just good laws that prohibit government from infringing. You hate that? Fine. Fine. We'll trade. And I'm actually being super nice right now. Some people are going to be like, 2AE to you, you're being too nice. Yeah, I know, I'm being too nice. But look, you hate it here? You're saying my great granddaddy owns your great granddaddy, even though he didn't, but you're going to say that? Guess what? You're ungrateful. If you're ungrateful and you hate this country, you can get out. Just get on the plane. You'll enjoy your life. You'll enjoy your life in the Congo. You'll enjoy when Nigeria welcomes you. Fare thee well. And I mean it actually too. Fare thee well. You'll do great. You'll love it. You hate this country. Go there and collect your reparations. They're the ones that sold you to Americans anyways. You know, this stuff's just getting to be so ridiculous. A broader community. No, I want a narrower community. I don't want to keep broadening our community. There's no homogeneous country left anymore. Too many people that just hate this country and don't even want to be here. This country's making me sick in so many ways, but I would actually like to be here and I want to improve it for the people that actually want to be here, you know? Like, I hate my government, but I still do love my country, like the good people that are here. But it's so hard to even name that anymore. Like, what is my country? I wish Trump was doing all the stuff they're accusing him of. They accuse him of doing all these dictatorial, authoritarian strong arm stuff. I wish he was doing 90% of what they say he is, actually. All firearms disposals are conducted in compliance with FTA regulations, ensuring safety and confidentiality. Well, from all these different outfits I've seen out there, I've watched different ones. I'm not sure if it's this exact outfit. I'm not trying to slander anyone's good name, but I've seen a lot of these SBRs and SBSs created right on site. Zanti Misfit says, I'll tell you, the Middle Eastern immigrants speak English, French, and Spanish too. Great. Bring all them in too. Bring everybody in. Bring them all in. There won't be any white people anymore, and then everyone's problems will be solved. There you go. Everyone's problems will be solved. Just get rid of English. Get rid of English. White people are the only thing oppressing people. Just banish all white people from the United States, ban English, and everything will be perfect. That's what everyone says. Colt CZ Canada. I'm going to sum this up real quickly. I do see two super chats here. I didn't think I was going to get any tonight. Thank you. Wild Times. What's happening, man? Thank you for the super chat. He says America first. Absolutely. This country's not doing so good in so many ways right now, man. It's really not. Thank you for the super chat, Wild Times. I appreciate you, man. And hopefully we can hang out soon again. Mateo coming in, channel moderator, longtime channel member. and a super chat and says channel support. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thanks to Mateo and Wild Times for tonight's sponsors. We'll be able to cover about half the gas money it takes to drive here to do the live stream. So there's this big gun confiscation that's about to occur in Canada because they banned all these guns 5 years ago, and not too many people have voluntarily turned them in. I probably should do a whole nother stream on this because I've kind of just streamed as long as I want to tonight, but I don't want it to be clickbait. And I saw to the corner of my eye, people were asking me about this instead of the first topic, which, whatever, it is what it is. I'll get a few more thumbs downs. I'll lose a few more subs. I don't care. Whatever. Look, I care about good people. I care about being myself on here. But 2AE to you didn't get to the second half of it till the very end. Yeah, I know. That's why it was the second half. Now go cry about it and like whatever. You know what I mean? People cry. Dude, people cry and whine about so much crap in the gun community. That's why I know. The other side, they will boogaloo. They're doing it right now. So many little, I'm going to keep this very family friendly. So many little female dogs running around. It's like, whatever. The gun community. You know what I mean, though? Oh, boy. From battling a long cold, that got some of my congestion back. Whatever this is, man, my whole family's had it, and everybody has a cough for a few weeks. It's a nasty one that's going around. But don't worry, that's nothing. The gun pandemic is the only one we need to worry about. Look, here's the deal. They're going to be melting and picking up guns. They're going to be picking up guns and melting them and shredding them in Canada soon. Canada doesn't have a Second Amendment. There's many, many fine people that live there. Thank you, Pillbox. How you doing, Pillbox? Thanks for the encouragement, man. Nice to see you. Good night, Jane. And nice to see you, Harry. What's happening, Barney Brady? As long as they have their green card, you know what I mean? Canada's a weak, feckless country. Has been for a long time. Never cared for them, quite frankly, since they came and burned down our original White House. You guys know about that, right? A large portion of Canada could have been the 14th colony. They didn't want to be. Look, there's some good Canadians out there. There's some good people. And if they're being honest, they'll admit to everything I'm saying. This is what happens when you have a weak, feckless, communist-controlled country. Guess what? Weak people get trounced upon. I'm watching them come after our guns right here in America. The government, the churches, but I kind of just repeated myself too, didn't I? So here's the deal. Allegedly, according to some Canada gun tubers, and now it's spreading into the American gun tubers. And I've known both sides of this story for almost 2 weeks now. I just had some very important paperwork to work on, and I've been trying to get over getting sick at the same time. Here's my take on this, and it's going to be an unpopular take maybe. But if anyone wants to know my opinion, here it is. A weak socialist country won socialist prizes. All right. Lots of good people in Canada. Genuine love and shout out to you. But these things happen in other countries. They don't have a Second Amendment at all. The U.S. has one written down, but it's not being followed either. I don't have enough bandwidth to care about Canada. So here's the deal. Allegedly, CZ, who owns Colt of Canada, This is allegedly by some Canadian gun tubers and whatnot and different media. They put some piece of the puzzle together. I could get into this for 2 hours. I know a lot about it, but here's my real brief 30,000 foot view. Allegedly, they're going to be taking the part into destroying all these. Now, let me say this. First of all, they've come out with an official statement and denied it and said, we are not doing this, actually. So we have to tell both sides of the story. Nobody has definitive proof that Colt or CZ is destroying these firearms, or they're about to, or they will. There's some circumstantial evidence that could lead people in that direction, and I'm not dismissing it. But right now, one side says we think they're doing this. The other side says we're absolutely not doing this. Absent proof, it's he said, she said. Now, there's a lot of Americans saying we need to boycott Colt and we need to boycott CZ. You do you, if that's what you're into. I ain't boycotting neither one of them. I don't necessarily know if there's any products either of them sell that I'm interested in right now either. I ain't boycotting them because, first of all, there's no proof they done it. It's Cellular and Ballon Ammo, too. It's Dan Wesson. This is a list of other companies you might not have heard of or all owned by. CZ USA is going to fall under this. We talked all about the Czechs taking over the world, the Czechoslovak group, which is not the exact same company, but Czechoslovak group, purchasing Vista ammunition, Federal, all of these. Look, the Czechs are slowly but surely taking over the ammo and gun industries of the world. It's a big, big conglomerate. Look, our country's grown so weak, the Czechs are overtaking. So here's the deal. First of all, I'm waiting to see more information. I don't know if it's true or not. Some popular YouTuber. It's like, geez, oh, Pete, dude. Get your balls out of your old lady's purse and man up. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially he said, yeah, I had to take my CZ off my hip because I couldn't be caught in public getting photographed wearing it. An American gun tuber. I think he's in Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Can't even remember his name right now. But very big YouTuber. I remember that much. Can't remember his name, but I do remember that he lives in Indiana. He says, well, I couldn't be photographed in public wearing a CZ. What for? First of all, there's no proof. I'm giving you this right now. There may be proof later. There may not be proof later. But right now, this is he said, she said. If Americans would get half as emotional over what's going on in Canada, but what's going on in our own backyard, we might not have all the problems that we have. Okay? So there's no proof. And here's the crazy part. Most people that are wanting to boycott Colt and CZ right now, Colt Canada and CZ, these are foreign companies. You know, this is the Colt division of Canada. This is not an American company. They're owned by CZ, Czechoslovakia. You know what I mean? It's like you can't even make this up. Are giving Glock USA a pass. Look, Glock's calling for gun control in our country right now, demanding it, begging for it. 99% of the gun community is giving Glock a complete and utter pass while they're calling for gun control in our country. While they're boycotting two foreign companies that are in a foreign country that ain't our country, that doesn't even have the Second Amendment. Talk about hypocrisy. Talk about, well, we're so cooked. No, this is the problem here. A company comes in and they call for gun control in our own country. Everyone gives them a pass except for me and a few other people and a lot of my viewers. When I say everybody, I mean 99% of just the community at large, the gun community. It ain't even a community. It's just a bunch of bifurcated nonsense at this point. So the one that literally on their letterhead shined by, in my opinion, Che Guevara's cousin himself. It's just in plain English. You could, if you literally read it and had any reading comprehension skills at all. Do you speak English? Now read these sentences. Look, provable this one company's calling for gun control. Nobody cares. They care when I call it out and unsub from my channel. My channel loses subs every day. Okay? This channel's smaller now than it was a year ago if you've actually been paying attention to my analytics. Told you guys this a couple months ago, and I wasn't joking. I could get sick of this channel at any day. Don't forget that. But here's the deal. Now all these people simping for Canada. They're simping for this. Whatever. Where the hell's Canada at helping us solve our problems right now? Nowhere. They don't give a crap about our country. I don't give a crap about their country. They're a socialist country. I don't like socialists. I don't like socialist countries. All right? You want to be socialist? Be socialist. Socialists get their guns picked up. So that's my conclusion. There ain't no proof Colt and CZ are doing this. They call for gun control here. Are they aiding and abetting gun control here? I will call them out because this is my country. I don't give a crap what goes on in other countries. I get ticked off every time there's a bloody Brit or a Canadian or a French or any of these whatevers. Parlez-vous français? Yeah, you can get the heck out of the forums too. All these foreigners come in and they think they can opine on our Constitution. And they say, oh, well, in Australia, yeah, whatever. Go over back to your penal colony and shut your mouth. I don't care about you either. No, I literally don't. Go lay down, all right? Of course you got your guns taken away. You're a penal colony. The sun never sets on the British Empire, and it hasn't set on you either. So whatever. Well, here, I live in Australia, so you should put your guns down. I live in Great Britain. You bloody Americans. Yeah, bloody this, bloody that. You and these stupid Canucks, you traitor Canucks and Redcoats came back over and burned down our White House. You guys know that, right? Like after the Revolutionary Era was over, they came back and tried to take us over again. Look, these people don't give a crap about the U.S. They all want to put their foreign policy into the U.S. They all advocate for gun control here. Guess what? I don't feel sorry for none of you. Go take a hike, go fly a kite, whatever. Many, many fine people live in all these countries. They do. And Jesus does love them. And I truly believe that. But guess what? I'm not here to pay them any mind. When it comes to their gun control policies, their wokeness, I could be to Canada in 35 minutes right now. No thanks. I have no reason to go to in this socialist country. So there you go. There's my unpopular take. I have no clue if Colt and CZ are doing any of this stuff or not. I need to see proof. And even if they are, I don't even care because it just ain't my country. Does that make sense? There you go. We have our own problems here, and we just need to take care of ourselves. With that, it's been good hanging out with all of you. I will definitely go back and read the chat afterwards, and I'll see you all again soon. All right. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.